Welcome to today's episode of Cascading Leadership. I am your friendly neighborhood talent strategy nerd, Dr. Jim. And today we have a really unique episode in that it doesn't neatly fit into any one of our categories. And here's what I mean by that. Some of the questions that we're going to answer in this conversation are going to revolve around what is a weighted decision matrix and how can that help provide a roadmap for success. We're going to learn how you get started with brand building, and we're also going to learn how you leverage your brand to establish credibility and expertise in your field of choice. So that is a lot of runway. It doesn't neatly fit into any one of our categories. It could be a marketing show. It could be a branding show. It could be a career search show. It could be anything. Let's call it potpourri. And the person that is going to guide us through this learning journey, joining us today is Ashley Faus of Atlassian. Ashley, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. After going back and forth with you on LinkedIn comments, I'm excited for us to actually get to chat. So this will be fun.
I'm really looking forward to the conversation. We have a lot of ground to cover, and just in the stuff that we're introducing in the show, there's a lot of passion areas that it fits into. So I think it's going to be really interesting diving into that conversation. Before we get to the meat of the discussion, let's set the stage a little bit. Obviously, I'm familiar with you because I'm all over your comments in anything that you post because, that's what I do all day. But the broader audience might not be familiar with who you are. So why don't you share with the listeners a little bit about your story?
So I am a marketer, writer, and speaker by day, and a singer, actor, and fitness fiend by night. And as you alluded to in the intro, that I have a lot of passion areas, even my short little kind of tagline starts to marry that personal and that professional. I do bring in a lot of my hobbies and a lot of my passions into my work. I do solve a lot of work problems while I'm out on the water, backstage at a rehearsal or something like that. So for me, I'm very into that kind of work-life integration and figuring out how do I connect the dots across the personal and the professional. In that vein, I've worked across a number of different industries. I started in solar. I worked in aviation for a while. I worked at a communication design and training firm, 2 security startups, and then now I work in the product marketing organization at Atlassian. I primarily focus on Agile and DevOps teams. So it's a little funny. Most of the stuff I post on LinkedIn or the things that I talk about on podcasts don't really touch that much on Agile and DevOps because I solve marketing problems and business problems. So my personal audience is more on the marketing and business side, but the audience that I market to for my day job is more developers and team leads and DevOps engineers and those kinds of things.
Even in that intro, there's some runway for me to get all up in your business. That's me trying to work on my street cred. It didn't work really well.
It's a cross-generational thing. We did a generational communication workshop. All the millennial things, I was like, yes, clearly my generation is doing this the right way as the millennials. And all the Gen Zs were like, how dare you, millennials? I appreciate the street cred.
I really love your philosophy about work-life integration because it aligns really well with my personal philosophy. And that's not related. It's just it's with me because I'm all about that. And I think one of the things that I noticed about what you were talking about in your intro, you have like 16 different jobs as far as what you do in a day. And that's very similar to what I do. And I think I'm disappointed that you left out one of the most interesting things about your 16 jobs is that you're actually a pretty good, I don't know what to call it, like pastry chef, baker, a cake maker, whatever the word is. Like you should check out this stuff if track Ashley down on LinkedIn and go through her featured content because she's got some exceptional cakes that she's made.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the baking hobby is actually fairly new. I picked that up during quarantine with COVID and we were all locked down. So I've been debating about, because technically singer and actor in that whole like singer, actor, fitness fiend, in theory, those could be the same thing, right? Like you could have musical theater. So then it's, okay, is baking, has it been around long enough to really be in those 3 things, right? That's a pretty quippy intro. So if you're going to be listed in that, I feel like you got to be around for more than like a year and a half in my life.
Oh, no, I think you just will stuff into existence. So I'm totally fine with that. The other interesting thing about your intro that you mentioned, so I used to, prior to my current role at Circa, I was a division director for a staffing company and I built the IT division from the ground up. So when you said Agile and DevOps, I already knew Atlassian because one of the requirements that would always come up for DevOps engineers is they need to know the Atlassian suite. And it's been a little while, but I remember the entire stack in terms of what people needed. So I could have totally nerded out on that conversation just by the nature of the fact that your audience, or not your audience, but your buyer is typically in the DevOps and Agile space, which is something that I know well as a non person. So that was pretty cool too. So let's get into the conversation. One of the interesting concepts that you mentioned in the beginning was this idea of the weighted decision matrix. So before we get into the details of how it's deployed, what is it in the first place?
It has a very fancy technical name, weighted decision matrix. We actually, my husband and I have used this. I used it whenever I was deciding on colleges. My husband and I almost called it like the life satisfaction matrix. So when an engineer and an MBA get married, they, of course, decide to make decisions in this very structured way. So it's basically just a framework to say, what do you value? How much do you value it? How satisfied with the value that it's providing are you currently? And then you can give it a score. So to give an example for folks, if they're thinking about a job search, they're thinking about potentially buying a house, they're thinking about, they could get crazy. What do you want to have for dinner tonight? Like, how much does the taste and the texture and the price of the food matter to you? So we make these kinds of decisions, weighing all of these trade-offs all the time. We don't necessarily go in and write out the math to figure out what we should eat for dinner tonight, but we do think about that when we're comparing job offers, for example. What I recommend doing is picking, say, 5 categories of things that matter to you. So it could be growth, it could be the industry, it could be compensation, it could be the tasks, it could be the seniority of the role. There are a variety of different things that it could be. So you pick those categories. Then you say, okay, how much does each category matter to me? So for some people, title matters a lot. For other people, money matters the most. For other people, work-life balance matters the most, right? So put that in. It should be, if you have, say, 100%, you want to divide it among the 5 categories. And it's not, okay, 20, 20, 20, 20. It's highly unlikely that all these categories are equally valid to you. And again, I'm not here to tell you what does or does not matter in your job search or your hobbies, but you can mark those down. And then you could say, okay, let's say I have 2 or 3 different job offers. How does each job offer score in each category? So if work-life balance is the most important thing to me, and there's a job that requires me to travel 90% of the time, that's going to get a very low score in work-life balance. If money is the most important thing for me, and this job pays the most, okay, it's going to get the highest score in that satisfaction category. So it's basically a decision-making framework. You multiply that out, and at the end, you get a score, and you say, okay, I'm 75% satisfied with this job, 60% with this job, and 90% with this job. In theory, you then say, okay, the job offer that I'm 90% satisfied with is the one that I should take.
That is a great description and breakdown of what it is and how you deploy it. And I want to get into the story of how you actually landed your dream job using a version of this, but I'm going to lay out some context before that. But one of the interesting things of what you just described, and I want to tie it in this way, like whenever we're in a job search and we're interviewing with multiple companies, you get this sort of emotional swirl in your head where you think like every role is great. And the value in what you're describing, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that before you get emotionally tied to one or another or multiple things, you know what the decision criteria is ahead of time, and it allows you to be as objective as possible. Is my read on that correct when I like translate this back to you?
Yeah. And I think that being honest, I think a lot of people get caught up in what they think they're supposed to care about. Oh, I'm supposed to care about work-life balance. Oh, I'm supposed to care about compensation in this very specific way. I'm supposed to care about, I want to get along with my team, or whatever these things are that they think they're supposed to care about. And I think what's really nice about laying this out ahead of time is that you don't start adopting what other people think you should care about. Obviously, whoever the hiring manager is going to try to sell you on this role, especially if they've made you an offer. They want you to join. And so whatever matters to them, that's what they're going to try to sell you on. But if you don't value the same things that they value, there's a lot of things that sound really great. And especially if you've got a passionate enthusiast person telling you like, we have this and we have this and we have this and we have this. And you're like, I don't really care about any of that, but man, they have 10 things. This is a lot of things. Maybe I should care about those things. But if you go back and you say, no, these are the things that I care about, then you can start to wade through that so that you're not getting that bright, shiny object syndrome where you're chasing what you think the hiring manager wants you to chase.
The other interesting thing about what you just mentioned, and it just connected with me in a different way. And what's interesting about what you just said is the aspect about you need to clearly define what's important to you. And I think there's a broader career lesson there too, because I'm a Gen Xer. So I came up in all sorts of backwards conditioning about what work is supposed to look like and all that sort of stuff. Plus I'm a Generation Zero immigrant. So there's a whole nother set of conditioning. Plus I'm Indian. So another set of conditioning. So basically that's just me saying I got a lot of stuff that was wired the wrong way in my head that didn't serve me well when it comes to how you progress through your career. And it wasn't until, to your point, that I started focusing on what do I care about? What's important to me? What do I enjoy doing? And what's authentic to me, that I started having these sort of breakthroughs instead of looking at it from the lens of what do my parents expect? What do my peers expect? What do my managers expect? It's a broad-based application of that decision matrix. So I think it's a very powerful concept that you have. And thanks for sharing that with us. You actually deployed this to find your dream job. But before we get to that story, tell us a little bit about what you learned through all of those various industries and sectors that reoriented your thinking and prompted you to pursue whatever this dream job was.
So I graduated in 2008, which was the worst recession that we've had in a long time in the US. And so the job market was terrible. Marketing is a particularly difficult degree fresh out of college. The book knowledge doesn't quite transfer to the real world the same way that maybe some of the hard sciences or engineering STEM degrees translate, right? You learn about the algorithm in the book, you then apply it in your day job. Marketing, you learn about the 4 Ps of marketing. Nobody is quizzing you on your 4 Ps of marketing once you actually get into the real world. So it's a particularly challenging degree to have when you're first coming out of school, and especially in a recession when people are laying off marketers. And so there was a ton of more experienced marketers looking for jobs. So I took whatever jobs I could get. The solar job was in a startup that pretty much I got in and I was like, these numbers don't make sense. They don't seem to be based on the same assumptions. This is not going to work. When I took the job in aviation, I didn't know anything about aviation. I was actually working for the parent company and was the only marketer for a couple of different child companies that did different things across aviation. I was working on things like parts and airframes and maintenance and like all of these topics. And I think the biggest takeaway from jumping around to all these industries is that for me, the thing I want to do is marketing. I used to think, oh, I want to work for a cool company, right? Like a consumer goods company like Nike or Starbucks or Coke. They're doing cool stuff. And the reality is that marketing, the nuts and bolts of marketing are fairly similar across all types of industries. You have to know your audience. You have to know their pain points. You have to identify with them. You have to understand your channels. You have to understand your distribution. You have to understand how the business works. You have to understand how money works in that business for your audience, right? And so for me, I really learned that I can find something to fall in love with, no matter who the audience is or what products I'm selling or marketing. I can thrive in a variety of different industries. I don't have to chase the quote unquote cool industry where it's highly competitive. And it also really helped me solidify what types of tasks within marketing I do and don't like. So because I worked at several smaller companies and was often the only marketer, I did everything. And so that actually helped me, when I think about that decision matrix, hone in on, okay, what are the areas within marketing where I thrive, where I'm passionate, where I do my best work. I did a bunch of events marketing stuff when I very first started, and that is not my forte. I'm great at like staffing booths and working events and speaking at events, but the event planning portion is not my favorite. Like too many spreadsheets in that world. So those are some of the big takeaways for me. I think that especially people, even the dream job, I struggle a little bit. I know I teed it up this way. Let's talk about the dream job. The world, there's not a dream job that exists in the world. That's something that you choose. You choose to be content. You choose to find the things where you're going to thrive. You choose to marry up maybe your personal passions with something that you get paid to do for work. There is no company that will provide you with a dream job. There is no job description that is the silver bullet. And so I think that for me, having a winding path early in my career really confirmed that I am the person who is in control of my career satisfaction, my career trajectory, quote unquote, the dream job that lives inside my head. That does not live externally in the industry.
I want to dig in a couple of different areas. So thanks for breaking it down. Got a feeling that this is going to be another one of those shows where I have 500 takeaways from an hour's worth of conversations. And so this is good stuff. So the first thing that I would ask is, looking back through all of those experiences, and if you're advising an early career marketer in terms of how they select the organizations that they join, in terms of structure, in terms of, is it an operations-led organization, a sales-led organization, a marketing-led organization, whatever, all of those different factors. So if you're coming out of school as a marketer, how should you frame your decision criteria when selecting the company that you want to work for? Let's take the tasks out of it because you're junior in experience and you just need to build that up. But from an organizational structure perspective and design perspective, what's the advice that you have for marketers that are early in their career and how they should select which company to land at?
I would actually put it more on who is the hiring manager? Who will you be reporting to? Because from my perspective, there's some table stakes. You need to understand your own risk profile. If you want to go work for a 2-person startup or a 5-person startup, they're not going to be financially stable because that's not a thing that a 5-person startup can really be, compared to someone like a large tech company or an established company that you can go look at their financials and see, okay, they're financially stable. I'm probably not going to get laid off. Like they have some things. I think from a values perspective, there are, whatever your values are, does the company espouse those same things? If you come from a background where you don't drink or smoke, you probably don't want to go work for a spirits or tobacco company. Like those are some table stakes that just immediately cull the list.
Yeah.
But once you get down to pretty much any reasonable company that aligns with your risk profile and reasonably aligns with your values, I would actually focus more on who your manager is going to be, because that is going to make or break your experience, particularly earlier in your career. If you have somebody that's going to mentor you, if you have somebody that's going to go to the mat for you, if you have somebody that's willing to give you the hard feedback to help you grow, that's way more important than having someone who's doing a high touch sales model versus product led growth, or having somebody that's a product led company versus a marketing led company, or a sales led company versus an operations led company. Unless you're 20 years into your career, those higher level overall strategies are probably not going to impact your day to day enough to choose the company based on that, compared to what you're going to experience with the hiring manager and your teammates. So I would actually put more focus on, who is the person that I'm going to have to deal with every single day? Do I trust them? Do I think that they've got my best interest at heart? Do they know what the heck they're talking about? Are they connected? I think that's more important.
Really good observation. I'm asking the question from the lens of somebody that's mid-career, and I'm just like, okay, if I'm picking the role, these are the things that I would consider. But you're right. If you're early in your career, you're going to be pretty task oriented in terms of the job. So it's, how does the person that you're reporting into lead and connect with you as an individual? That's absolutely correct. The other thing that I want to call out in your work history that kind of dispels some of the erroneous beliefs that the broader world of work has conditioned us to believe. You jumped around from a lot of different opportunities. And one of the things that you mentioned was, in the course of moving from opportunity to opportunity, it really helped you identify what you like to do and what you didn't like to do. Compare that to like older generations where we're told, oh, if you leave a job in less than 2 years, you're a job hopper and you'll be unemployable. I think that's an important call out. Share a little bit more about why it's important especially in early career, that you should really consider testing the waters of what's out there when it comes to industry, type of company, function, all of that sort of stuff. So you get a feel for what works for you.
I recently read the book Range by David Epstein, and it basically talks about being a generalist versus a specialist. And I would call myself a generalist, and a lot of people get offended when you talk about that. Oh, you're calling me a generalist. You're saying I'm not good at anything. And I'm like, no, as a generalist, you're good at a lot of things and you can connect those dots. So when I read that book, he talks about this concept of a sampling period. And there's some research from a PhD who studies these types of things. And what she found is that most people who are very successful and have 2, 3, 4 different careers, they have very long careers and they are satisfied in their careers, is that they do go through a sampling period. And so they figure out, and in some cases, it's this very wide sampling period of they work in B2B SaaS and they work in a pastry kitchen and they work as a fitness instructor, right? If I were to take my own hobbies. And that allows them to start seeing what are their transferable skills, where do they excel, where are they uniquely capable. I would not suggest moving every 6 months. You're going to struggle with the ramp up period. In my case, I had some involuntary moves. That startup in 2008, it closed. Like I didn't have a job. I was only there for 8 months because that's all the business had. The 2 startups that I was at in between both got acquired by very large companies less than a year into my tenure. And I was like, I don't want to work for these companies. I'm not going to thrive in these companies. And so I left. So I think that you do have to be intentional. You can't just jump every 6 to 12 months to the next thing. But I do think that if you're starting to see that you're getting pigeonholed in an area that you don't want to be pigeonholed into, go ahead and cut your losses and take that leap and say, okay, what from this experience would I want to translate into something else? Do I need to go back to school to get a new set of skills? Or is this something where I've got transferable skills, but maybe the industry or the types of roles not excelling because I'm not the best version of myself in these roles? And then you can take a look. So I will also say too, that raising your hand to take on stretch projects in the position that you're currently in, especially if you're at a larger company. I've been at Atlassian for almost 5 years. I would say that I'm in my 4th role here. I've sat on 3 different teams, which obviously necessitated 3 different roles. And then I just recently launched our Associate Product Marketing Manager program, which I would consider to be a 4th role. That is a new type of work for me. It's stretching me into a different skill set. And it's forcing me to reevaluate and rethink how I view marketing, my practice of the skills that I have. So I think there's also an opportunity. It's that growth mindset. So it's not running away. Oh, I'm bored today. I'm just going to get a new job. No, it's what is the sampling period? What am I learning about myself? How am I growing? Okay, can I do that internally at my current organization? Or do I need to look externally to make those kinds of moves? So I think it really stems from a growth mindset versus I got bored one day or I'm flighty and don't know what I want to do.
Those are really good observations, and especially your point about intentionality. You shouldn't just make these decisions on a flight of fancy. The broader lesson that I take away from what you described is, from a mindset perspective, it's important to think of your career in terms of a web versus a ladder. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall into, is that, okay, I'm in this function. How do I get to this next level in this function, without really examining what do I even like about it? And what's interesting about this is that I'm going through that decisioning process right now, because I've always been in sales and I pretend to know marketing. And I've been in these player coach roles where I've had large P&L responsibility, but they've been in smaller organizations where I'm in the game. Like, I absolutely love the phrase generalist, because it allows me to spread across a lot of different areas and drive impact in those areas. But what's interesting is that right now I'm in an accelerating growth organization versus throughout my career, I've been generally a startup person. And what's interesting about an accelerating growth organization is that this is the first time that I've been in a role where I'm a pure people leader at the manager level. I'm not in the game. It drives me nuts. I was like, oh, let me get in there and do some stuff. And it's a difficult transition, which I don't mind. I think the part that is really interesting about this role that I'm in is the level of tightness that I need to have from an operational and metrics perspective. That is a completely new universe for me. I think big picture, and then we need to get from here to here. So for those listening, I'm just pointing at two different poles and drawing a line, and then we just figure it out as we go. So that adjustment has been really interesting, to your point about growth mindset and identifying what you like and don't like and what's the best role to be in. I think that's some really good insight there. All right. So we have all that context laid out. Now, how did that position you, leveraging your weighted decision matrix? How did that position you to get your dream job?
All of those basically feed back into the weighted decision matrix to say, okay, I had several offers on the table. Obviously, one of those was from Atlassian, and looking at what is the growth opportunity. So for me, one of the things that I value a lot is that ability from a career trajectory perspective. I do like to climb the ladder. I do care about growing in my career and title and team size and scope of work. I care about all of that a lot. And so Atlassian as an organization was and continues to grow, which obviously means there's more opportunity for me. They have a really strong support system for making internal moves. So that was something that was interesting to me. It's like, okay, I can start to see where being a generalist on this team allows me to make those connections into other teams and to be able to continue to take the best parts from my past and leverage those going forward as I built a career here. And then again, from just calling it out, like the leaders that I was speaking to, I think our CMO is an excellent leader. He has an excellent vision. He cares about his people. He understands what's happening at the organization and really takes time to try to have that individual mindset when he's speaking to you or looking at your work or those kinds of things. And so that connection to leadership was also very strong. I have continued to interview and evaluate that decision, and every so often saying, okay, is this still the right place for me? Is this still the right role for me? What is my next role, whether that's at Atlassian or another company? And so to date, it has continued to say, I've continued to come to the conclusion that I am still growing, I am still making progress, and there is still more growth for me where I am. But I think that's the other thing, is making sure that you're continuing to understand that where you are right now, is this the right place for you? Is it set milestones to check in for yourself to say, okay, if I don't hit this milestone, whatever it is, by this time, then I need to take some steps to make a change, whether that's changing teams internally, whether that's asking for a promotion or a raise, whether that's taking on a new project. So again, just thinking about this, if folks are looking at different job opportunities and you're looking at what is the support network internally for you to continue to grow, some of the markers that we have that are public, we have a marketing rotation program, for example. We have formal pathways for secondments internally so that you can go flex different skills or try different skills. So that's something that also helps me evaluate. If I'm feeling that I personally need to make a move, then my next question is, okay, is it an internal move or an external move? Okay, if I determine that it's an internal move, which move is it? Is it something that I need to work on with my manager? Is it something like doing the marketing rotation program or something like that? Again, I struggle a bit with calling it the dream job because that's always in flux. But when you do have supportive leadership who says, we want to hire smart people, we want to empower them to solve hard problems, that is a much better conversation to have than, we hired you to do this very narrow, specific job and you're stuck in that job forever. And so I think it's more about that ongoing conversation than it is about this exact role at this exact moment. Again, I'm very excited about my work. I'm getting to do some really cool things. But that was also true when I started here and I was doing something very different. It's been an evolution.
You mentioned earlier about there's no such thing as a dream job. Your dream job is whatever you make of it while you're in the seat, and how you leverage your passions to make it into what gets you out of bed and drives you in the morning. The one thing that I'm really wondering is how much of your organizational commitment or job commitment is tied to the level of brand building that you do in your role. And the reason why I'm asking that question is Atlassian is a known organization. And typically, when I'm looking at some of the larger organizations like Apple and Microsoft and all of those sort of companies, for the size that they are, they're relatively quiet in terms of people that are evangelizing for the brand. And granted, like Microsoft doesn't need evangelists, but you get where I'm going. How much of your organizational commitment is tied to the fact that you're allowed to brand build as an individual while you grow your career internally? Is there a relationship there that's important to call out?
Yes and no. So my official day job is not to be on LinkedIn or to go speak at conferences or to do podcasts. I do a lot of this work outside of business hours. Obviously, there is a symbiotic relationship with the brand. There is benefit to Atlassian for me being out there. I would say just in the last year or so, that has accelerated, right? So as we've continued to grow, we have started to realize that the more organic approach that we've had to something like brand evangelism, we're getting to the point where we need to have a more formal process for that. We need to think about, okay, who are the right folks to be out there speaking about this topic or that topic? What are the conferences? What are the media outlets that they should be in? Those kinds of things, right? So in the past, we've had a smaller bench of people that have had a lot of support to do that. I'm a little bit of an oddball. Like I would almost say I go rogue, but not in a bad way. Like no one's going to slap my hand, right? Because I have internalized the message. I do show up well on behalf of the brand. And I have started to get to go and do speaking on behalf of Atlassian, which is really cool. I got to speak on behalf of Atlassian at Slack Frontiers, for example. I've started to get to speak on some Agile topics and ways of working on behalf of Atlassian. So some of that is really about that symbiotic relationship. And I think that that's something that is becoming a more relevant conversation for people as they think about growing their careers. I love public speaking. Again, that singer actor portion. I love public speaking. I love being on stage. I like doing video. I like being the face. And so because I have that as a hobby, I'm generally pretty good at it, right? I know what I'm talking about. I have good energy. I can stand up. I don't get stage fright, those kinds of things. That has potential to be highly valuable to the company that I'm working for. Whether or not the topics that I'm most passionate about talking about are the most relevant for their brand message and brand platform at the moment, that's where some of the negotiation comes in, right? So again, that's an ongoing conversation. I think that we have traditionally had one of our values is be the change you seek. And I think we've taken a very be the change you seek approach to a lot of that brand building. In contrast to what from some companies that have maybe been around longer that have a more rigid set of guidelines that only these people are allowed to speak on behalf of the company, or please don't post anything on social media about the company. And it's like, okay, if we want our people to live by our values, one of which is be the change you seek, we also have another value called open company, no BS. Okay, that means that we want you to be empowered to build your personal brand, and where that intersects with Atlassian. Again, this is a perfect conversation about career things. This is great from a hiring perspective, right? When I share this and people are like, man, I want to work for a values-driven company. Yes, you do. Come work for Atlassian, right? They benefit from me having this conversation, and they're okay with me having it at 4:30 my time on a weekday because we both benefit from this. So I would say that it's not an official part of my job, but it benefits me from a career standpoint. Obviously, it benefits Atlassian from an awareness and an authenticity standpoint. And so when you hire people who are values driven and who are aligned with the mission of the company, you don't have to police what they're saying because they are already aligned. And then when you choose a company that does give you that freedom and that trust, you have the ability to infuse your own passions and lean in as much as you want to that kind of personal brand building or audience brand building for yourself.
The one thing that I'll say to everything that you just said is that you're throwing out some of the words that like really resonate with me in terms of being values driven, in terms of empowerment, in terms of inspiration. You and I both know Steve Watt. That's what he talks about all the time. So we're like three peas in a pod when it comes to the language that we speak across multiple functions in terms of the enterprise. But what I think is pretty interesting that ties all that together is when you look at buyer behavior and this is more relevant for you because you're the voice of the customer as a marketer. When you look at buyer behavior, people are buying from other people. People aren't buying from companies. So the value in empowering your evangelists in your organization to go forth and evangelize is because you're like giving them permission to be a giant megaphone. And the more authentically that person can be a giant megaphone, the better the attraction model is for people that are out there looking. And this is it's phenomenal. It blows my mind even now. And this is a Gen Xer saying this. I often joke about I must be a Generation Z person trapped in a Gen X body because I'm like everywhere. But it blows my mind how much resistance there is in general in the world of work, given the demographics of the employee landscape. Your biggest cohort are millennials and Generation Z, and yet you have this overarching like, no, don't put yourself out there, which is really strange to me. You're working someplace, you should be like passionate about what they do. Well, at least that's me projecting. That's how I think about it. So you have built a pretty solid brand around yourself, and I'm undercutting like what you've actually done for yourself. So you've built a solid brand, not a pretty solid brand. My question is this: if I'm somebody that wants to dip my toe in the water and like start doing this stuff, where do I start? Because it's extremely uncomfortable for the average person to even put a status on LinkedIn. Most of the time they're just lurking. So how do you build towards that brand that you want to establish?
There's 3 things that I'll say, 2 of which are prompts to just get you started thinking. There's 2 prompts that I love. If you're not sure what you want to talk about, you don't know what kind of content you want to create, you don't know where your expertise really lies, let's start with these 2 prompts. The first is talk about a question that you asked today. And the second is talk about a question that you answered today. And this could be your kid asked you what we're having for dinner. This could be that your best friend asked you if this dress looks cute. This could be that your boss asked you if you're going to attend the meeting at 4:30 today. Then you start to jump off and say, okay, how does that relate to my job or my expertise or something like that, as an example. And I riff on these examples when I give these prompts because I think that you can tie all of these things to anything, right? If your kid asks you, what are we having for dinner tonight? You could riff on what it means to be a working parent. You could riff on why working from home is the best thing for you to get dinner on the table. You could riff on why you actually prefer working in an office so that you don't have to get those questions from your kids, right? Those are all things that are tied to work. You could also talk about, oh, here's how I plan dinners. And actually, it falls in with agile methodology, where I originally thought I was going to cook dinner and do a big batch of bulk cooking for the week. But in fact, my kid has soccer practice and then the bathroom was flooded. And so now I had to change my plans. And here's how I did that. Oh, look, life is agile, right? So you can start making those connections. The other piece of this is a question that you've asked. So this could be a challenge that you're facing, again, personal or professional, asking your colleague, hey, when is this piece of work going to be delivered? Hey, do you have any feedback for me on this article that I just sent over? Okay, great. Let's talk about what is the subject of that article? How do you think about content and distribution? How do you ask for good feedback? What kind of feedback would be most helpful for you? That starts to give you some meat to hold on to. And then the other way that you can get started is with commenting. So obviously I'm highly biased towards LinkedIn. I'm saying you should get on LinkedIn. If you're in B2B, LinkedIn is a great place for you to be. If you are in, say, consumer or B2C, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok might be better places for you, right? So pick whatever that channel is. But from my perspective, it's been really easy to start by commenting on someone else's post. So go through, if you've got folks, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's people you've worked with in the past that are sharing on LinkedIn, it's me, come comment on my content. I'll comment back to you. We'll have a whole conversation and start commenting and comment thoughtfully, not just agree. Yes, love this.
Yeah.
Okay. I literally can't do anything with that. I can't write. I don't know what to do with that. I actually am riffing on a whole series of posts that are literally just comments that I've left from other people. My post this morning was a comment that I left on somebody else's post yesterday, and I pulled it out. there's another comment where I'm like, man, that was actually, I shared a lot of good value in that comment. I should turn that into a post, right? So going in and leaving thoughtful comments is another great way to get started, because then you don't feel like you have to be so front and center, but you can start to engage in those conversations and start to put yourself out there. And then once you start to find your flow, you can then copy and paste those comments into original content. You can then tag the person who you originally commented on so that they'll start to engage. And so now you've built that relationship. And so that's a way to start getting things going so that you're not feeling so exposed that I have to come up with the most amazing thing ever and I have to have a framework and all of these things. No, start with a comment, start with a question you asked and a question you answered.
It's interesting that you describe it that way. It's a similar version of the internal conversations that I have within my organization and the team that I lead. The broader organization isn't really active on social. Just like most other places, I get looked at, I got 9 heads, and people are like, I don't have anything really like thought leadership-y to write about. And I say, I don't either. I just run my mouth about random stuff that happens. Oh, there wasn't enough cheese on my pasta today, and here's a business lesson. Stuff like that. It's, you almost have to, like Seinfeld, and this might be a Gen X thing. I'm not sure if Seinfeld was something that you watched, but like Seinfeld had 10 seasons of shows about nothing. You could build your brand and your credibility and your expertise essentially writing about stuff that happened that seems so random, but you just hook it at the end to a business lesson, which is like really all it is. One of the interesting things that happened recently was I'm starting to have people dip their toes in the water. And one of my colleagues who's on the sales side, he's actually a team lead for me. He messaged in our Teams chat about, oh, I was following so-and-so on LinkedIn. I connected with them after that, and they posted something on their company page, and I commented. And through that comment, I advanced the conversation and got a referral to another person in the company and a different person outside of the company that ends up being a warm handoff. And that's really the thing. If you're advancing the conversation, you don't have to come up with the new version of the standard model on LinkedIn. You just write about your observations and you ask a question, and then conversations happen. I think the other part that's important, people always get intimidated about this idea of content creation. And there was something that you just mentioned that, hey, sometimes I'll make a comment and that could be its own piece and lesson from there. So what are some ideas that you can apply as you're building your brand to create a content flywheel that doesn't require you to like reinvent the wheel?
It's unfortunate to me that people have put content in such a narrow box. People say, oh, I never create content. Oh, I don't create content. Oh, content is hard. You create a ton of content in Slack, in internal blogs, in emails, on whiteboards, in conversations. And so I think that this mindset that content is this separate thing that has to be created and curated, has to be the smartest thing ever. Oh, I have to be a thought leader. Okay, if you're aiming to declare yourself a thought leader, you've already lost. That's not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is have conversations and exchange value. And so if you shift that mindset from, oh, I need to create content, and you say, oh, Slack messages or whiteboarding or emails, that's just exchanging information. That's just helping my teammates out. That's what creating content is supposed to be. It's supposed to be that human connection. It's not supposed to be going viral or turning yourself into a thought leader or driving impressions or driving likes. If you do it for the numbers, you're going to struggle, because the algorithm is a fickle mistress, right? Where that's not what we're doing. We're creating for the humans behind the screen. So what I would do, again, shifting that mindset into, okay, again, let's say I'm an engineer and I do code reviews all day. I clearly can't share all the code. Like, that's proprietary information. Okay, what is a pattern that you frequently see when you are reviewing code? Is it a syntax thing? Is it a style thing? Is it a structure thing? Is there a difference in the feedback that you find yourself giving between a senior dev and a junior dev? How do you give good code reviews? How do you do code reviews asynchronously versus synchronously? How do you do pair programming versus a code review that's further down in the process? All of that is stuff that you think about, and you may even verbalize as you're talking to your team or as you're doing these code reviews. All of that process, that thinking, that how do I do this better, that can be shared externally. And so it's just getting in the habit of kind of writing that down or doing voice memos or whatever makes the most sense for you. It can be the same thing, again, from an HR perspective, right? You're doing recruiting. Okay, what are the biggest pitfalls of using an applicant tracking system? Today, I was so frustrated that my ATS did this thing. Great. You can go on a whole series, rants about applicant tracking systems. Turn that into a series, right? Every Monday, you go on a rant about the applicant tracking system. And it's stuff that maybe you're sharing with your IT teams or you're sharing with the wider recruiting teams in terms of the filters or looking at a migration or whatever it is, right? It's just changing your lens a little bit to look at the patterns that you can then share with other people. And so that's, I think, the biggest mindset shift is thinking about how do I take the stuff that I'm already doing and share that in an external way. You don't have to keep switching your mindset. There's a lot of things that I don't talk about publicly because that would be a big lift for me to talk about. It's, man, I don't know how this connects. And like, oh, I'm going to sit down and now I have to like try to figure out how to write 2,000 words on this. No, just don't talk about that. If it's hard for me to figure out what the connection is or it's boring for me, fine. I just don't talk about that publicly. I pick the things that I can talk about for a long time publicly. So I think that's one thing. I think the other big thing is following the right people and curating people in your feed so that you are able to have those comments. Obviously, if I go follow somebody that has nothing to do with what I normally talk about, I'm not going to have as much to say about that. And so if I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just can't come up with a comment. Okay, then clearly you're not meant to comment on this. Let it go.
Yeah.
So I think just giving yourself permission to take a broader lens to what counts as content and to pick the things that already energize you, that you get very excited about. And the last thing I'll say on this is try out different asset types. What's the easiest way to create for you? For some people, it's super easy to sit down and bang out 500 words. For other people, it's super easy to hit the go live button and just be like, hey, I'm here, I'm going to start talking, right? And to share via videos. Other people, they love to sketch in notebooks or they like to whiteboard, they like to do diagrams. You could build, and there are people who have built an entire brand around sketching or whiteboarding and diagramming, right? There are people who have built an entire brand of thoughts with Ashley, and every Tuesday and Thursday, I just randomly pop on and start talking for 10 minutes, right? So don't feel beholden to this very civic, polished brand that you think you're supposed to have. Figure out how you can create and get in that habit. And then you'll start to see, okay, now I can repurpose this via a transcript or with thumbnails or something like that.
One of the things that's important to communicate in all of it is when you're going through that sampling phase in terms of just creating content, my perspective is you have all these different channels that you can create content on. It could be long form written, short form written. It could be clips and analysis off of articles. It could be videos. It could be any number of things. But the key thing is that as you're dipping your toe in and getting further and further involved in it, you have to look at, okay, what can I crank out that's meaningful in a light lift? You shouldn't be spending 8 hours a day trying to come up with things to say. And this is one of the other mindset things that I'm trying to shift is I don't want to create content because it takes too long. I don't want to like do all this LinkedIn stuff because it takes too long. Usually takes 30 minutes, maybe an hour that you block off, and then you're done. And then once you shut down, you just reply to comments or whatever at the end of the day. So this isn't like a part-time job or extra work. It's something that's integrated into what you're supposed to be doing or what you could do. So now we've built sort of the fundamentals or the framework that you need to do to establish a brand. Let's say you want to accelerate your brand and really take the next level. And whatever that next level could be, hey, you want to be more widely recognized within your own industry. You might want to parlay this into some sort of regular speaking engagement, any number of things, whatever that looks like. What are the things that you should be thinking about and being intentional about to position yourself for those higher credibility opportunities?
The first thing is consistency. So a lot of people, I see this all the time. They're like, I've decided to do a personal brand campaign. So for 1 quarter, I'm going to post on LinkedIn. And you're like, okay, that's not The brand has to keep going, similar to a company. Companies don't exist for one quarter. Hopefully they exist for 100 years. Obviously humans will currently, most of us don't exist for 100 years, but thinking about it in the long run to say, what are my goals? So you have to show up consistently. So that's the first step, is you have to be present. The second step is that you have to actually be open to those opportunities. So the way I did this is I went through basically a year of yes, where literally anything that I could say yes to, podcast, webinars, speaking engagements, contributing a quote, writing an article, I said yes to all of it. And I did all of it. And it was exhausting. But what that let me do was show that I was everywhere. I was prolific. And so someone knew that if they asked me to come speak or they asked me to provide a quote, I actually would do that, because it's like, oh, wow, look, she's done all of these things. She said yes. And so you start to build that credibility that, okay, I see what you're writing about. I see how you show up consistently on stage or on podcasts or on webinars. I see that you do what you say you're going to do. So I'm willing to ask you or sign you up. So you build that both from a credibility of expertise and then a credibility of being a dependable person. So at this point now, I've spoken at a couple of different places multiple times. And so they know I'm a dependable speaker. Even internally, when people need something, they know that they can come ask me and that I have processes in place and that I will show up in a way that makes sense. And so it's actually a lighter lift on both of us because they already trust that I will show up paired on message with decent slides, all of those things. And then I would say the third thing is having all of your materials together to be able to pitch. So I do get a lot of inbound opportunities, but I also pitch for a lot of opportunities. And so I spend time at the very beginning of the year. I have a whole spreadsheet where I've looked at opportunities of places where I want to pitch, particularly conferences. So conferences usually look for speakers anywhere from 3 to 12 months in advance. So for example, Inbound is coming up and I've had people reach out to me.
So is Outbound.
So is Outbound. Yeah. I've had people reach out to me and be like, man, how did you get to speak at Inbound? And I'm like, I started that conversation in December of 2021. And so if you think you're going to have that conversation starting in August of 2022, when the event is in September, they've been locked. My slides are already due. They're not looking for new speakers. My slides are due. My final deck is due. So understanding what that cadence is for the speaking engagements that you really want, understanding what the editorial process is when you pitch. So I have a number of articles that I've published on the Muse, which is a career site. Their editorial process, same thing for marketing profs. I've written for them a number of times. They may have a 6 to 12 week lead time on publishing. And so if you've got something that's only relevant in the next 2 weeks, probably not going to get published in those two outlets because they have such a long lead time for their editorial calendars. So even starting to think about, where do I want to show up? How evergreen is this content? What is the publishing process or the pitch process or the selection process for each of these things, right? You and I went back and forth to schedule this podcast in a fairly tight timeline. That is not the case for something like Inbound or for getting something published on B2B marketing, on marketing profs, for example, right? So that preparation, that if I do get an opportunity, I already have the slide deck. I already have the abstract. I already know what the outline is. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, we happen to have a slot for a quote or a contributed article on thought leadership. Great. Here's the 3 things I can talk about with thought leadership. Which one do you want? It's already written. I can maybe provide a different example or riff on it if they want so that it's slightly different, but I'm not creating this content from scratch anymore. I already created it. I riff on it. And I think that preparation, that's what's hard. I have tried to refer a number of people for speaking engagements that I can't take. And in a lot of cases, even with 3 months notice, they're like, I just don't have time to prepare for it. If you want to do this, you need to start preparing before you get asked or before you start to pitch, right? So that balance of the preparation, that is key. So you have to be showing up consistently so that when you do get selected or when you do pitch, people go back and they look at your body of work. They see that you're smart. They see that you're engaged. They see that you're dependable. And then on the flip side, you've now used all of that body of work to prepare you so that it's not such a heavy lift when you do get asked to do something that's more high profile.
In a lot of ways, what you're describing, it synthesizes two concepts. One, begin with the end in mind. So if your mindset is, hey, I want to speak at these events, you need to plan out and identify what those events are and use your weighted decision matrix to identify where they are, how you plan it, and all of that sort of stuff. And at the same time, you should be building towards that goal by showing up. So if you want to speak at event X that's on topic Y, well, part of your brand should be focused on talking about topic Y on a regular basis. And that builds the muscle memory that you need to do this. And it's interesting that you mentioned it. It's the whole concept of speaking engagements. It's something that's been on my radar. It's just a matter of finding the time to plan and build that. So I'm taking a different approach where I've gotten approached from stuff that I've done on my podcast. And then I launched the LinkedIn live show too. Basically, after I saw you do that a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, I could launch this. So let me clear up another vehicle to run my mouth. So this is great stuff. What I want to do next is take all of the stuff that we talked about and all of this great conversation and synthesize it into the 2 or 3 most important things that you feel the average listener or viewer on this needs to take home so that they can make better decisions, start building their brand, positioning themselves for sort of an evergreen career trajectory. What would those be?
First, you have to know what you value and what value you bring. And so things like the weighted decision matrix can help you really hone in on the things that knowing the value that you bring can also help shape your personal brand. And so when you marry those two things up, what you value and then the value you bring, that's where you really start getting into that accelerated career trajectory or that accelerated brand mindset. The second thing is just start. And I know there's been some discussions online of just start. That you're not going to get better if you don't actually practice intentionally. And I'm like, yes, but if you never practice at all, there's so many people who read a ton of books and listen to a ton of podcasts and like, man, if only, I've really been preparing by listening and watching. At some point, part of the preparation is doing. You have to show up. You have to try. So just start trying, start to build that habit so that you can then start to see where your areas of improvement are so you can practice with intentionality. So that's the second thing, is to start, be consistent. Third thing, and this is the last thing that I'll say, is be prepared. Look at where you want to go, understand what that journey is, and then break that into those milestones. That can also feed into and be laid out in your weighted decision matrix that, okay, if being the face is something that is very important to you from a career standpoint or a personality standpoint, great. You need to do these things to build the personal brand and put yourself out there so that you can speak at this conference or get featured in this publication or get promoted into a more visible leadership position. Whatever that thing is, that has to be included in your values. That has to be included in the way that you are showing up when you're starting and when you're showing up consistently. So that be prepared mindset of know what the journey is, break it down into those milestones, and be a couple of steps ahead before that milestone hits so that you're really ready to take full advantage of the opportunity.
Great stuff, Ashley. Before we sign off, where can people find you?
So you will be shocked that I will say LinkedIn, but yes, definitely follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking to people on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at Ashley Faus. I don't show up there as frequently as LinkedIn, but yeah, LinkedIn and Twitter are great places to find me.
So one thing that I will say, thanks for joining us. The only area of disappointment that I have in this conversation is that early in the conversation, I said that we would have 50 takeaways. I only counted like 47.25. So we fell a little bit short of expectations, but other than that, I think it was phenomenal having you on and chatting with you for a bit.
Yeah.
So
I was
Ashley,
just going to say, I think the biggest disappointment is that we didn't have this over cake.
Oh.
Like the fact that you're only on Zoom with me, it would be better if there was cake. That's my disappointment.
That's why I run every morning, because I do love some cake. So Ashley, Awesome conversation. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who are listening and who will be watching us on all of our various platforms, you can find us on the Cascading Leadership handle everywhere. So we're on LinkedIn primarily. We are on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're not on Instagram because that's only for food pics. So thanks again for joining us. If you like this episode, make sure you leave us a review, subscribe, tell your friends, do all the things that the crazy kids want you to do these days. Thanks again for joining us.